Hello and welcome to the On-Demand Module 6, Florida Science e-Assessment for grades 1 through 5 from National Geographic Science, Florida. My name is Angela Terry Boggs, Consultant Manager for National Geographic Learning, and I am going to guide you through this session today. To help you become familiar with e-assessment, let me remind you about the User Management Console. The UMC is the dashboard for rostering, managing, and as it relates to e-assessments, reports and grading. By now, you have probably already viewed the module for using the UMC, so this session will focus on reports and grading. When you click Reports and Grading, your class list will populate. Once your class list populates, click on the class in which you want to review reports. There are 3 types of reports available for you to view. You'll find your class information, your name, then you'll find your test reports, standards reports, and your FCAT practice test reports. The assignment take list is where you will grade the writing portion of your student assessments. Let's begin by taking a look at the test reports. We are in grade 3. Let's choose the Chapter 1 test report for us to view. When the test report loads, you will find all of the assessment information, grade, which assessment, and the date the test was taken. You also see that information to the right of your screen. You can even change the test report you want to view, as well as print a copy of the report. If you scroll down on the page, you will see your list of students and their individual test scores. You also will find the item numbers and benchmark codes. As you place your cursor over each benchmark number, that benchmark indicator appears on your screen. These circles indicate which of the items students answered correctly or incorrectly. You find the class average score here, and here is the key for your correct or incorrect responses. Scrolling back to the top of the page, keep in mind that this report is a class level report. We will return now to your class list page by clicking here. This time we will view the standards report. Still in grade 3, let's take a look at the life science standards. When this report loads, again to the left you will find all of your class information and the dates in which this test was submitted. You can also change to a different standard or print this report as well. Right now we are looking at the standards report at the class level. As we scroll down the page, we will find each of our students and their individual test scores. Performance is indicated by one of 4 symbols. James Anderson scored 80 to 100% on this item. He scored 50 to 69% on this item. These are your key codes so that you know the range for each symbol. In this report, the student name hot links will open up the individual student standards summary report. By clicking the student name, the screen is changed to give me specific information to that particular student. I can access each student from my class by using this drop menu. By scrolling down the page, I will find the student's performance, including the benchmark code, as well as the actual benchmark, how many points the student received on the item, and which test was taken. Remember to use the scroll bar to find all of the information for each student. Scrolling back to the top, I want to remind you that you can move to other students by using the drop menu and selecting the student you want to see. We have been viewing James Anderson and his individual Life Science Standards report. Let's return now to the class list page and then to the class home page. Now let's take a look at the FCAT practice test reports. We are in grade 3, so let's select Go. The FCAT report is now loading, and of course we will begin looking at this report at the class level. As we scroll down the page, we find information for the class performance by student, the student name, the percentage, and points earned by content area: Earth and Science, Life and Environmental, Scientific and Thinking, and Physical and Chemical. Once again, by clicking the individual student name, we can find very specific information on each individual student. We've now changed the view to the student report. By using this drop menu, I can move to other students in the class as well as print this report also. As I scroll down the page, I see James's overall test score. On this test, he scored 92%. Moving down, I see his performance by content area, the points possible, the points earned, and where the student scored within the class average. As I continue to scroll down, I also find the student performance by Next Generation Sunshine State Standard. I see the standard, benchmark information, item number, and performance. As I scroll down the page, I see scoring for each item with either a green check mark or a red X if the student did not perform as well. Again, to see all of the information provided, be sure to scroll down using the scroll bar on your screen. We have viewed the student information for James Anderson on this FCAT report. Let's now return to the class home page and then return to the class list page. The next item we will take a brief look at is the assignment take list. This will populate a list of all of your students and the items they have submitted that need to be manually graded by you, the teacher. When the list populates, you will see all of your class information as well as the portion of e-assessments you have activated. This list of items indicates all of the assessments students have submitted as well as those that have been previously graded. As you scroll down the list, you will also find items that were automatically graded by the system. Once we assign a test to a student, we will come back to this page so that you see what happens next. Let's return to the home page and learn how to assign assessments to students using the Manage button at the top of your menu bar. When you are logged in as yourself, this information will be pre-populated. You will need only select the class in which you want to activate a test. Once you find that class, click on the green view before the class name. This will open a page that shows your class information with a tab for My Students, which shows your class roster, and a tab for your tests. All of the assessments that are a part of Angie Science Florida have been preloaded into e-assessments. We are getting ready to manage those assessments. I see several students who have had some assessments activated or assigned, and some of them have submitted their assessments. Let me scroll down the page and assign a new test to these students. I will assign the Chapter 9 Physical Science Unit test to these students by clicking the green word Activate. The screen changes to show the class list. I can choose all of the students in the class by choosing the Select All button here. I click the Change Selected Start Date to choose the date I want the test to become available for my students, choose the date, click Submit, then Save at the bottom of the page. I then see the Saved Successfully message on my screen. Now that we have activated or assigned a test, let's go to the home page of the UMC. Once you have activated the test, students will be able to log into their accounts and take that assigned test. I am now going to log into MyNG Connect as Scott Fields, one of the students in the class. The home page for students looks somewhat different from your home page, but has some of the same features. The student information is found here at the top of the page. Students can access their textbook in this section of the home page. Scott can scroll to the bottom of his home page and click My Tests to get to the assessments you have assigned. Students will be able to take any activated test or review any tests previously taken. Scott has several assessments activated, including the one we've just assigned. Let's have Scott actually complete the assessment for Chapter 8. The first part of this test is multiple choice. This bar shows the progression for the assigned tests students are taking. There are 7 items on this test. To move to the next item, the student clicks this arrow to the right. This process continues as the student reads and responds to each question. For this test, questions 1 through 5 are multiple choice. Some tests will include opportunities for students to answer questions with a written response. Beginning at item 5, Scott now must provide a written response to the questions or problems provided. Students will type their responses in the area below each portion of the question. I will pause for a moment as Scott reads, then provides his written responses for items 5 and 6. In some cases, students might even complete the written portion by providing the correct responses to the areas of a chart, as you see here in item 7 of this test. After the student has completed the last item, notice the arrow to the left becomes gray because the student cannot go any further. Going to the top of this page, they can now save or submit their tests. Once submitted, the screen returns to the available assessments. You see Chapter 8 is no longer available. By clicking the arrow, the student can go back to their home page for their e-assessments. Now Scott can go in and review the assessment he's just submitted. The multiple choice portion of this test has been automatically scored, and Scott can see the items he missed as well as those that are correct. He cannot change any of his responses, he can only review each item. The bar at the bottom will now indicate his progression and which items are correct. Everything has been scored with the exception of the written responses, so Scott does not see his total score yet. He will not see that score until the teacher goes in and assigns a rubric to his written responses. Now that Scott has completed his assessment, I have logged back into the Teacher User Management Console to show you where and how to score the written responses. I've gone back into the section Reports and Grading, then selecting the class that I need, in this case Science Class 3. We are going to return to the Assignment Take List portion of the e-assessments. As you recall, this will show all of the assessments students have submitted and provided information for those which have already been manually graded, automatically graded, and as you see now, any new ones which require manual grading. This is the test Scott has just submitted. I can scroll through his multiple choice responses and see his performance for each item. When I get to item 5, I see that I need to provide a grade for this item. After reading his responses, I can give him the appropriate rubric score for items 5, 6, and 7. I'll pause just a moment as I make those appropriate scores. After completing the rubric scoring, please be sure to scroll to the very bottom of the page to apply the changes you've just made. This saves those scores. Now let's return to the home page of the User Management Console. We are going to go to the Student page one more time before we wrap up this module. Now that you have scored the written portion of Scott's test, he has logged into his account to review his test. By clicking on My Test, he launches the menu where he can click Review My Test. He then selects the assessment he wants to review, in this case, Chapter 8 of Physical Science. When the assessment review is launched, Scott will be able to see his total score for his assessment. At the top of the page, it no longer indicates NA out of 10, but provides Scott his total score of 8 out of 10. He can use this menu to review any portion of the test he wishes to see. Scott, in this case, is now going to exit e-assessments. I want to remind you that from your home page of the UMC, go to the Help button at the top of your home page, select User Documents, then choose the User Manual for Florida E-Assessment User Guides. This will be a PDF of the information you have seen in this module. You have now seen the entire process for accessing, assigning, and applying rubric scores for NGL Science Florida e-assessments. At any time, you can always select from the menu on your left of the screen to review any one section of this module. Thanks for viewing this module, and please feel free to contact us if you have any questions.